Welcome to the Lead Pedal Podcast with your host, Bruce Outridge, where he talks all things trucking. Now let's get rolling.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to an edition of the podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Outridge, and today we're going to be talking owner-operators. That's right, we're going to give you some updates about owner-operators, what's going on, what we've noticed in the industry, what some people are telling us. Lots of stuff going on. If you're an owner-operator on both sides of the border, you may want to be thinking about what's happening. But before we do that, let me tell you a little bit about Bison Transport. That's right, they do have owner-operator positions. But they are looking for drivers who are have a couple years of experience and are willing to fit some of the runs they have available. That's the way Bison operates. They hire based on the run, not just like open board or closed board or dedicated or whatever. So you got to kind of watch what they do, make sure you're willing to meet those requirements. But if you are, they're one of the great fleets here in Canada, so check them out. BisonDriving.com is where you can learn all about all of those opportunities. All right, let's get into some of the stuff that we've got going on for owner-operators. So there's a couple things. So I'm part of a number of associations. I attend a lot of conferences and events, and recently I was at our Fleet Safety Council, which is one that we have quite regularly that I attend on a monthly basis. And they were talking about owner-operators and safety. They had a guy named Chris Harris there who's better known as Safety Dog. He is the one that was speaking at that one. And I guess let's just talk about some of the big things, some of the things that were changing as far as the trucks themselves. If you've ever heard of the employee misclassification, the thing's been going on. That started in California, actually, but it's been really strong up here. We call it Driver Inc. up there. There's been a lot of people trying to skirt the system and not pay taxes and all that kind of stuff, and it's really causing problems from a safety standpoint, from a liability standpoint, all this kind of stuff. Drivers are not getting paid. And so this has been, all the associations have been talking about this. All of them are looking into this. And one of the big things, we have an employment lawyer, she's an employment investigator, I guess, as part of our chapter. So she brings us up to date quite regularly on what's going on. And they are really looking at owner-operators right now in the industry. I don't know how this is going to change the industry. I think it's going to change a lot of stuff, especially for owner-operators. But owner-operators, there's always been two kinds of owner-operators. There's been the leased owner-operators that, are tied onto a company and they operate they run under the company's plates and authority, and they only run for that company, but they kind of have some control. They pay for their truck. They own their truck. They take time off whenever they want, but they're really tied to that company. And then there's true independent owner-operators, which are ones that have their own authority. They have multiple customers. They have their own trailers, their own trucks. And it could be one, it could be many. That's how a trucking company kind of starts. So in Canada here, the history has always been more of the leased on owner operators. The guys with their own authorities are few and far between up here. I think there's more of them in the U.S. than there are here in Canada. I don't really know, because even we see what we call mini fleets, where an owner operator is leased on to a company, but he owns three trucks within that company, and we call them mini fleets. He's mini fleet within that company, but he's still running under that company's authority. So with all the Driver Inc. stuff and all the stuff happening, they're now looking at how owner-operators are tied, and they're looking at the control. They actually don't care. It really came out. They don't care if the driver pays for the truck. Like, they don't care who pays for the truck. They don't care who pays for the expenses, which is how a lot of us have always looked at owner-operator, who's paying for what. What they are looking for from an employee standpoint, and this is the Canada Labor, they are looking at who has the control. So can that owner-operator, that driver who is leased onto a company, if the work is slow, can he go and haul for another company? Now, for any leased owner-operators, no, they can't. They might be able to move around within their company if they have multiple divisions, but they can't go and kind of work for their competitor. So they say that is what they're really looking at. So who actually has control? They don't care who pays for it. So that is going to change. If that goes through the way that they're talking, that is really going to change the way owner-operators, that makes almost 80% of the owner-operators, 80-90% of the owner-operators here in Canada will become employees. Now, there's a lot of them that don't want to be employees. There's a reason they're owner operators. Now I could see it becoming employees, and then that just makes the owner operator he's going to just get a higher mile rate like he does now to pay for his stuff. So he'll get to drive the truck. But if he's an employee, what does that do for all the labor stuff that happens? And that makes the companies more liable. It's really going to change the game. I've already started to see it. Now, a lot of companies are hiring more owner-operators now because of this Driver Inc. thing, because they can't compete from an employee standpoint. I just had a conversation with Mike Hahn not too long ago with Canada Cartage about this same issue. And he's starting to see it. He says that people cannot compete on the employee. Everybody's either going to be owner-operator. So I'm not sure how that's going to change things, but it's really going to be a big thing. The other thing that we noticed, remember when smoking, you weren't allowed to smoke in your trucks? Remember that law came out in Canada? I don't think it's in the U.S., I'm not sure, but it came out in Canada where they designated the truck as a workplace. Unless you owned it, they designated the truck as a workplace. And by doing that, they were able to say you were not allowed to smoke in the truck. Now, a lot of people said, you know what, we're going to lose a lot of drivers because a lot of drivers have been smoking forever. They're saying that's not going to happen. And so now what they're doing is they've said you can designate a smoking truck. So you can say, hey, this truck number 92 is a smoking truck only. Anybody can drive it, but if someone gets hired and they're a smoker, that's the truck they're getting. So that's kind of what they're doing as far as that goes. So those were the two big things here, and then there's companies. Chris found that a lot of companies are focused on the hours of service instead of how drivers feel to drive safely. This is putting our roads at risk. This has been brought up many, many times throughout North America as far as when you can drive, when you can't. The rules have favored hours of service, but they're not making our roads safer. That's why the regulations don't work, because everybody is different and drivers behave differently. They get tired at different times. Some like to drive at night, some like to drive during the day. And this is really, they're now waking up, folks. How long have we been telling them as drivers that this is the way it works? So they're starting to look at that a little bit. I don't know if that's going to help. And then, of course, there's been so much. We talked about this too in prior episodes, the dishonest training and testing in the industry. This is, of course, making our roads so much unsafe, right? Like, I mean, they are really looking at this. This is one of the reasons PTAC is so strong right now, the Private Truck Training Association of Canada, because they're trying to get everything on board, training. They're trying to get rid of all these fly-by-night schools, employment, CRA. They're all looking into all of this stuff. So hopefully, this is going to try and clean this up, but we'll see what happens. That's what's happened. All right, let's take a break there, and then I'm going to tell you some of the common things that our friend found in trucking companies, and that might include you.
By far my favorite station.
You're the best. Oh yeah,
I love you guys.
Hey, before we do that, let me tell you about a place that can help get your fleet up and running in good condition, and that's Compliance Mentors. That's right. If you're wondering where do I start, how do I get myself on track for 2026, Compliance Mentors with a Z can help you. They can come in, they can do an audit on your safety process, an audit on your whole company actually, and tell you where the problems are so you know what to fix and what to work on for 2026. If that's exciting to you, then go to compliancementors with a Z.com. That's Compliance Mentors, MENTORZ.com. And make sure you tell them that we sent you. All right, let's get into some of the updates that we found from the Fleet Safety Council and Mr. Safety Dog. So one of the big issues that he saw was the inaccurate kilometers and mileage for insurance. They can tell, folks, if you are adjusting your kilometers and trying to say, hey, we didn't run this or whatever that, but you're looking for insurance. This is the real big problem. This is the problem where a lot of people get caught cheating the system. Having supporting documents, poor crash files was something he really was talking about. He was saying a lot of people forget to get all the supporting documents, and that's what people are looking for. If you have a crash, they're not just looking at what happened there. They're looking at when did you last stop for fuel, and when did you eat? When did you last take your break? When was your last load? How long were you held up? They're looking at all these things to create a picture of what happened in the accident. So it's not just who hit you at the light, it's what happened before that on both sides. So if you don't have supporting documents to say, hey, I did stop here, because we often think, oh, it's supporting documents to tell that we were doing something wrong. Maybe those supporting documents are telling you did something right. Like, yes, you did take your break at the within the 8.5 hours that you're supposed to, and so now you were able to you weren't at fault or you weren't tired or whatever. So check that out. He was also saying driver files, and it doesn't matter if you have one truck or if you have 20 trucks. If you're an owner-operator, this all applies to you, right? So driver files. So do you have the supporting documents in the driver files? We've talked about this at length of how owner-operators, you get a tire changed and you don't have the bill, with you or the invoice or anything like that. Like, make sure you've got supporting documents. When it comes to driver files, you need to have things like the abstracts and all that. You also need to have all those checks, the tests that you've done, you've updated yourself safely. If you're an owner-operator, this comes back to you. A lot of companies do this. And again, we just talked about this, right? The control is, are you waiting for the company to do their safety meeting so you can show that you were safe, you're updating, or have you done your own safety and can prove that online that you were being safer? And maybe that's an online thing or something like that. So you need to really look at that. And then, of course, the big thing that he was talking about was the inspections, and we're still having problems with inspections. People doing their inspections, people commenting on the inspections. When you're doing, if you see minor defects, you have to write them down. If you're not writing them down, you are causing yourself more problems, especially if there's an audit. This is one of the areas that they catch most people. I've seen it happen live when I was a supervisor. It catches most people right away. So if you are not looking for if you're not writing down your minor defects, even if they've been fixed, even if they've happened and you think nobody's going to care or it's okay for you to drive, you need to make sure that they're fixed. Major defects, make sure that they're signed off. Make sure that you've got them fixed before you go and make sure that they're signed off. This is critical, folks. And as an owner-operator, a single owner-operator going up and down the road, you probably don't have time for a lot of this stuff. You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to get a load and I'm driving and I got to get maintenance and I got to get fuel and all this kind of stuff. You got lots of stuff going on. We get it. But someone in the background needs to be doing this stuff for you. And if it's not you, get somebody else to do it. But just get into a system. There is a ton of technology right now that's out and available and allowing you to do this stuff seamlessly at the time that it happens. So you don't have to worry about finding that receipt and record keeping and all those kind of stuff. I know we're doing it in our, sometimes that's the thing that's going on with these, when it's a down year, like it's been a rough year for everybody. There's no questioning about that. But what does that do? That helps you streamline, that makes you better, right? So that's a good way of getting things going. And maybe now, as we go out of 2025 into 2026, what technology is available for you to really start working on that and thinking about what you need to do. So that's kind of my recommendation. Look at that. But those were the big things. So he was talking about the common problems that he sees from an insurance standpoint. And Safety Dog was in insurance. He's now doing CVOR training and that kind of thing. And he goes into companies and helps them with their stuff. And so here's what he saw: the inaccurate kilometers, people not doing their kilometers properly, poor crash files, not having proper maintenance statements, which have your service documents and stuff in there, the driver files, the supporting documents, and then not writing down minor defects on your inspection sheets. Those are all things that if you want to make sure that you've got a nice seamless way of doing things, you need to check that out. And the way to do that is to get someone to help you with that. Somebody like Compliance Mentors, right? So there you go. All right, so there you go. That's what we've got coming up for you. Hopefully that gave you a few tips to get started and get going on what you need to do. Before you do that, though, if you need help on the tax side, RS2000 Tax Services is who you need to look at. And these guys specialize in taxes for the trucking industry. We actually use them ourselves, so I can tell you that they're good. If you're in Ontario, Canada, and you're an owner-operator, you really need to keep an eye on these guys. Go to rs2000tax.com to learn all about them. They come to you, so you don't have to go and find them. They work with you and your family, the whole thing, and you really need to get into that and check it out. So go to rs2000tax.com and tell them we sent you. All right, my friends, we'll talk to you later. Be good out there. Bye for now. Subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we will catch you next time.
This has been another episode of the Lead Pedal Podcast. For more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit theleadpedalpodcast.com and be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.